Lieutenant Maya Chun stood at the edge of the observation deck and watched the stars blur past the massive windows. Her hand shook slightly as she gripped the railing. It wasn't fear that made them shake. It was her body, betraying her as it always did. The Galactic Coalition Training Academy floated in neutral space, a massive ring of metal and glass that housed warriors from a dozen different species. Maya had arrived 3 days ago as Earth's representative, and every single one of those days had been a nightmare. She was 23 years old, small even by human standards, with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform hung loose on her thin frame. The degenerative muscle condition she had lived with since childhood made her look fragile, like she might break if someone touched her too hard. Among humans, she was considered unfit for military service. Among aliens, she was a joke. Move aside, human. Maya stepped back as a Krolthan warrior stomped past her. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick scales that looked like natural armor. Its forearms rippled with muscle that could crush steel. It didn't even look at her as it passed. She had gotten used to that. The Krolthan treated humans like insects. So did the Vexari with their 6 limbs and lightning-fast reflexes. So did the Thanik, who could shrug off weapons fire that would kill human instantly. Maya made her way down the corridor toward the training hall. Her legs ached with each step, but she kept her face neutral. Pain was an old friend. She had learned to hide it well. The training hall was enormous, with high ceilings and padded floors that could survive even the most brutal combat exercises. Today was assessment day. Every cadet would be tested on basic combat capabilities. Strength, speed, endurance, reflexes. Maya knew she would fail every single test. War Master Doc stood in the center of the hall, his red scales gleaming under the bright lights. He was the head combat instructor, a Krolthan veteran of 40 campaigns. His voice boomed across the space as cadets assembled. "You are here to prove your species worthy of the Coalition military," Doc announced. "Strength is the foundation of all combat. Without strength, you are nothing. Without speed, you are dead. Without endurance, you are a burden to your unit." Maya swallowed hard. She had none of those things. The first test was simple. Lift a weight bar loaded with standard Coalition mass units. Maya watched as a Vexari cadet stepped up and lifted the bar with 2 of its 6 arms, barely straining. A Thanik lifted it with 1 hand. A human cadet from Mars, genetically enhanced for heavy gravity work, managed to lift it to chest height. Then it was Maya's turn. She approached the bar and gripped it with both hands. She pulled with everything she had. The bar didn't move. She tried again, her muscles screaming in protest. Nothing. Laughter echoed through the hall. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind of amusement people felt when watching something pathetic try to do something impossible. "Next test," Doc said. His voice flabbed with disappointment. The sprint test was worse. Maya ran as fast as she could, but her best speed was slower than a Krolthan's casual walk. The endurance test lasted 2 minutes before her legs gave out. The reflex test showed her reaction time was average for a human, which meant painfully slow compared to everyone else. By the end of the assessments, Maya's scores were the lowest in the entire academy. Not just among humans. Among every species. Doc called her aside after the other cadets had been dismissed. His massive form loomed over her like a mountain. "Lieutenant Chun," he said, and his tone made it clear the rank was a courtesy only. "You are not fit for combat training. I am assigning you to logistics and supply management. You will coordinate equipment and maintain records. Perhaps humans can serve the Coalition in that capacity." Maya felt something hot and angry burn in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. "I didn't come here to count supplies, War Master. You came here to train as a warrior," Doc said. "But you cannot be what you are not. Accept your limitations, human." There is no shame in knowing your place. He walked away before she could respond. Maya stood alone in the empty training hall. The lights seemed too bright, the space too large. She had expected prejudice. She had expected to be underestimated. But she hadn't expected to be dismissed completely before she had a chance to show what she could do. She looked down at her hands. They were small, weak, prone to trembling. These hands had failed every test today. These hands would never match a Krolfin's strength or a Vegeri's speed. But these hands knew things the aliens had never learned. Maya waited until the station's night cycle began. Most cadets returned to their quarters for rest. The training hall sat empty and quiet. She entered through the side door and walked to the center of the padded floor. For a moment, she just stood there, breathing slowly, letting the pain in her muscles fade into the background. Then she began to move. Her body flowed through forms she had practiced 10,000 times. Aikido first, circular movements that turn force aside rather than meeting it head-on. Then Wing Chun, precise strikes aimed at vulnerable points. Then Capoeira, her body spinning and flowing despite its weakness. Then Judo, phantom throws against invisible opponents. She had started training when she was 8 years old. Too weak to run with other children, too fragile for normal play, she had found martial arts. Not the flashy tournament kind, but the real thing. The kind designed for survival. The kind where technique mattered more than strength. For 15 years she had trained. When other students practiced one style, she practiced 5. When others trained for an hour, she trained for 3. When her body screamed at her to stop, she learned to make the pain irrelevant. She had mastered 73 different combat systems from across human history. Ancient arts from China, Japan, Korea, Brazil, Israel, Russia, the Philippines. Modern systems developed by special forces and intelligence agencies. She knew them all, had studied their principles, had made them part of her muscle memory. The galaxy saw a weak human girl. They saw someone who couldn't lift weights or run fast. They saw limitations. They had no idea what she actually was. Maya finished her kata and stood still, breathing hard but satisfied. Her body was exhausted, but her mind was clear. Tomorrow she would report to logistics as ordered. She would count supplies and file reports. She would be the obedient failure they expected, but she would also wait. Because eventually, someone would need what she had. Eventually, someone would need a warrior who won through skill instead of strength. And when that moment came, Maya-chan would be ready. 2 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork and quiet humiliation. Maya spent her days in a small office managing supply requisitions. She tracked ammunition counts, scheduled equipment maintenance, and filed reports that nobody read. The other cadets forgot she existed. Even the human cadets from Mars and the outer colonies avoided her, embarrassed by association with Earth's weakest representative. But Maya watched everything. From her office window, she could see the training yards. She observed how the Vexeri moved, how the Krolfin fought, how the Thanik defended. She studied their techniques and their weaknesses. And at night, alone in the empty training hall, she continued her own practice. On the 15th day, everything changed. It started during an afternoon training exercise. Maya was delivering equipment to the combat arena when she heard shouting. She entered the observation gallery and saw chaos below. A group of Vexeri cadets had surrounded 3 Thanik warriors. The training exercise had been a simple sparring match, but something had gone wrong. One of the Thanik had landed a blow that cracked a Vexeri's exoskeleton. Now the Vexeri wanted revenge. "You dare strike with full force?" The lead Vexeri hissed, all 6 of its limbs tensed for violence. "You break protocol." "Your kind are weak," the Thanik rumbled, its armored body gleaming. "Perhaps now you learn respect." The Vexeri attacked. 3 of them moved as one, their speed incredible. But the Thanik were strong enough to take the hits and slow enough to be predictable. Within seconds, the sparring match became a brawl. Other cadets formed a circle around the fighters, shouting encouragement to their own species. The training supervisors were in another section of the facility. No one was stopping this. Maya saw the moment it would turn lethal. One of the Thanik grabbed a training staff from the rack. The weapon was meant for practice, but in a Thanik's hands, it could crush bone and shell alike. The Vexari responded by drawing their combat knives, thin blades designed for their lightning-quick strike patterns. She didn't think. She moved. Maya jumped from the observation gallery, dropping 3 meters to the padded floor below. Her knees absorbed the impact poorly, sending spikes of pain up her legs, but she ignored it. She walked straight toward the center of the brawl. "Stop this now," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Stand down before someone dies." A Vexari turned toward her, its compound eyes gleaming with rage and adrenaline. "The human speaks? Return to your papers, weak thing." It shoved her aside with 2 of its limbs. The casual push sent Maya stumbling backward. She caught her balance and tried again. "I'm serious. This stops now. Move or be moved," the lead Thanik growled. The Thanik raised its training staff high, preparing to bring it down on a Vexari's head with killing force. The Vexari lunged with its blade toward the Thanik's throat joint. The one weak point in its armor. Maya moved into the space. Between them, her hands intercepted the Thanik's descending staff, redirecting the blow with a circular motion that used the alien's own momentum against it. Aikido, the art of spherical motion. The staff slammed into the ground instead of the Vexari's skull. Before the Thanik could recover, Maya stepped inside its guard and executed a perfect judo throw. She used leverage and positioning rather than strength, turning the massive alien's weight into her weapon. The Thanik hit the ground hard, the air rushing from its lungs. The Vexari with the knife struck at her from behind, its blade moving faster than most eyes could track. Maya had already moved. She pivoted, caught the knife hand at the wrist using Wing Chun trapping technique, and struck 3 rapid pressure points along the Vexari's arm with her knuckles. The alien's hand spasmed open, dropping the knife. Another Vexari came at her from the side. Maya didn't try to match its speed. Instead, she read its movement pattern, predicted where it would be, and was already there waiting. She used a Muay Thai elbow strike to its center mass, followed by a sweep that took its legs out from under it. 2 more Thanik charged her together, thinking their combined strength would be unstoppable. Maya dropped low, using capoeira's ground-fighting movements to slip between them. As they collided with each other, she rolled to her feet and struck nerve clusters in both their necks with precise Kyusho Jitsu strikes. They fell to their knees, temporarily paralyzed. The last Vexari backed away, its compound eyes wide. "What is this? What are you?" "Someone who's asking nicely," Maya said, breathing hard. "Please stand down." The Vexari looked at its fallen comrades, then at the small human who had somehow defeated them all. It lowered its fighting stance. The entire brawl had lasted less than 90 seconds. Silence filled the training arena. Every cadet stared at Maya. She stood in the center of a circle of defeated warriors, her uniform rumpled, her breathing labored, but her eyes steady. "Someone get the medical team," she said quietly. "And someone find the supervisors." The crowd parted as War Master Doc entered the arena. His red scales seemed to darken as he took in the scene. Injured cadets, broken weapons, and in the center of it all, the weak human from logistics. "Explain," Doc commanded. Now, Maya stood at attention despite her shaking legs. "There was a fight, War Master. I attempted to stop it through verbal de-escalation. When that failed, I used necessary force to prevent lethal casualties." Necessary force. Doc repeated slowly. He looked at the Thanax still struggling to stand, at the Vexery cradling its paralyzed arm. You defeated 6 trained warriors in personal combat. Yes, War Master. You, who could not lift the training weights. You, who failed every assessment. Yes, War Master. Doc moved closer until he loomed over her like a cliff face. How? Maya met his eyes. I was too weak for Earth's military service, War Master. So I spent 15 years studying every combat system humanity has ever developed. I learned techniques from dozens of cultures spanning thousands of years. Aikido, Judo, Wing Chun, Muay Thai, Capoeira, Krav Maga, Systema, Silat, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and 50 more. What I lack in strength and speed, I compensate for with knowledge, precision, and efficiency. Why did you not demonstrate this during assessments? You tested strength, speed, and endurance, War Master. You never tested skill. Something changed in Doc's expression. Not quite respect, but a calculation. He was reassessing everything he thought he knew about the weak human. These combat systems you mention, they rely on technique over power? Yes, War Master. Many were developed by smaller fighters who needed to defeat larger, stronger opponents. They use leverage, momentum, pressure points, joint locks, and the opponent's own force against them. They turn weakness into strength. Doc was quiet for a long moment. The injured cadets were being helped to their feet by medical personnel. The crowd of onlookers still watched, waiting to see what would happen to the human who had just done the impossible. Report to my office tomorrow at dawn, Doc finally said. We will discuss your future here. He turned and walked away, leaving Maya alone in the center of the arena. The other cadets looked at her differently now. Not with respect exactly, but with uncertainty. The hierarchy they understood had just been shaken. Maya limped back toward the exit, her body screaming in protest from the exertion. She had revealed herself earlier than planned. But as she caught the looks of wonder from some of the younger cadets, she thought maybe it was worth it. The galaxy was about to learn something about humanity. Something about how being weak could make you study harder, think smarter, and fight better than those who had never needed to overcome their own limitations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, Maya allowed herself a small smile. She had shown them just a glimpse of what a human could do, and she had so much more to teach them. Dawn came early on the station. Maya stood outside War Master Doc's office exactly on time, her uniform pressed and clean despite the bruises hidden underneath. Her body ached from yesterday's fight, but she kept her posture military straight. The door slid open. Doc sat behind a massive desk designed for his Krolfen frame. He gestured for her to enter with one of his 4 arms. Sit, Lieutenant Chun. Maya sat in the chair across from him. It was too large for her, making her feel even smaller. I reviewed the security footage from yesterday, Doc said. 3 times. What you did should not have been possible. A human, especially one with your physical condition, should not defeat trained warriors from superior species. Yet I did, War Master. Yes, you did. Doc leaned forward. I have been a warrior for 40 years. I have won battles through strength and experience. But I have never seen combat techniques like yours. This efficiency, this precision. Where did humans develop such things? Maya chose her words carefully. We had to, War Master. Humans have fought each other for our entire history. We are weak compared to many animals on our own planet. So we developed systems to overcome strength with technique. Every human culture created their own methods. Some focused on throwing, some on striking, some on weapons, some on grappling. Over thousands of years, we refined them. And you learned all of them? Not all. That would take many lifetimes. But I studied the principles behind them. I learned how they work together. A throw from one system, a strike from another, a defense from a third. Combat is like a language, War Master. Once you understand the grammar, you can create any sentence you need. Doc was silent for a moment. Then he said something Maya didn't expect. I want to test you further. The war games begin in 3 days. Mixed species teams competing in combat scenarios. I want you to join a team. Maya's heart jumped. War Master, I would be honored. Do not thank me yet. You will be placed on a team with cadets who still doubt you, who may not follow your lead, and your physical limitations remain. In a sustained engagement, your body will fail you. I understand the risks. Good. Report to Team 7. They need a 6th member. Dismissed. Maya stood and saluted. As she reached the door, Doc spoke again. Chun, yesterday you said your combat systems turn weakness into strength. I want to see if that applies to more than just fighting. Can your human methods turn a weak team into a strong one? Maya met his eyes. Let's find out, War Master. Team 7's barracks was a disaster. Maya walked in to find her new teammates arguing loudly. She recognized some of them from the observation crowd yesterday. There was Krath, a young Krolthan warrior who had failed leadership training twice. Vix, a Vexery scout who was talented but arrogant. Thorn and Stone, 2 Thanic brothers who worked well together but ignored everyone else. And Zara, a human from the Mars colonies who had avoided Maya since her arrival. They all stopped arguing when they saw her. Oh, perfect, Vix said, its compound eyes glittering. They give us the fragile one. This team is cursed. I saw what she did yesterday, Krath rumbled. The human has some skill. Skill won't help when we need someone to breach a door or carry ammunition, Thorn said. She slow us down. Maya walked to the center of the room. Can I see the wargame scenario? Zara, the Mars-born human, reluctantly pulled up the holographic display. The scenario showed a space station under hostile control. Their mission was to rescue hostages held in the central section, while enemy forces guarded all approaches. It's impossible, Zara said. Every team that's attempted this scenario has failed. The enemy has superior positions, automated defenses, and more numbers. Even if we had a perfect team, the odds are against us. Maya studied the hologram, her mind working through possibilities. She had read extensively about military history and tactics. Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, von Moltke, modern special forces doctrine. The aliens had strength and technology, but humans had spent centuries learning how to win when outmatched. It's not impossible, Maya said, but we can't win by fighting them directly. We need to use tactics they won't expect. You have a plan? Krath asked, his tone skeptical. The beginning of one. But I need to know what each of you can do. Your real capabilities, not just your test scores. Over the next hour, Maya questioned each team member. She learned that Vix could fit through spaces too small for other species. Krath was strong but had poor eyesight in certain light spectrums. The Thanic brothers could absorb tremendous damage, but were slow. Zara was an excellent shot, but froze under pressure. She also studied the enemy team's past performances. They relied on overwhelming force and direct assaults. They always took the main corridors. They always established strong defensive positions. Here's what we're going to do, Maya said, pulling up the hologram and marking new routes. We don't use the main corridors. We use maintenance shafts, ventilation systems, anywhere they won't expect us. Vix, you're our scout. You'll move ahead through tight spaces and mark enemy positions. What about breaching doors? Thorn asked. You cannot do that. No, I can't. But I don't need to. We're going to use the station systems against them. I'll hack the maintenance terminals and open paths remotely. Zara, you're good with technology. You'll help me. And when we encounter enemies? Stone asked. We avoid them when possible. When we can't, We use ambush tactics. Hit them from unexpected angles. Disable them quickly. Keep moving. We never get into a sustained fight. Speed and surprise are our weapons. Over the next 2 days, Maya trained them in concepts they had never considered. She taught Krath about concealment and silent movement despite his size. She showed the Thanak brothers how to use the environment for cover instead of just absorbing fire. She worked with Zara on breathing techniques from Systema to manage combat stress. For herself, Maya studied the station layout until she could navigate it blind. She planned routes that avoided long corridors where her lack of speed would be fatal. She identified choke points where technique could overcome numbers. The other teams trained in the simulation chambers, practicing direct assaults and frontal combat. Team 7 trained differently. They practiced infiltration, misdirection, and coordinated strikes. On the morning of the war games, Maya gathered her team one final time. "The other teams are stronger than us," she said. "They're faster than us. They have better equipment and more experience. But they're going to fight this like a conventional battle. We're going to fight it like a war. What's the difference?" Zara asked. "In a battle, the strongest usually wins. In a war, the smartest does." The simulation began. The enemy team took their expected positions, fortifying the main approaches to the hostage area. They set up overlapping fields of fire and prepared for a direct assault. Team 7 entered through a forgotten maintenance hatch on the station's lower level. Vix scouted ahead, finding paths the enemy had never bothered to guard. Maya and Zara accessed terminals and quietly unlocked doors, disabled alarms, and rerouted camera feeds. They moved like ghosts through the station. When they encountered enemy sensors, they took unexpected detours. When they found automated defenses, Maya disabled them using techniques she had learned from human hackers and engineers. 40 minutes into the simulation, the enemy team was still waiting for an attack that never came from the expected direction. Team 7 reached the hostage area from above, dropping through ventilation shafts. The guards never saw them coming. Krath and the Thanak brothers provided muscle for the entry. Maya used joint locks and pressure point strikes to disable guards silently. Vix moved with incredible speed to cut restraints. The hostages were secured in 3 minutes. Then came the hard part. Getting out. "They know we're here now," Zara said, monitoring enemy communications. "They're converging on our position." "Good," Maya said. "That means they're not guarding the escape routes." "Krath, Stone, Thorn, you 3 are going to make a lot of noise. Act like you're trying to fight your way out through the main corridor. Draw them away from the service tunnels." "And you?" Krath asked. "The rest of us will take the hostages out the back way. Once we're clear, you disengage and follow. Don't try to win the fight. Just keep them busy." It worked perfectly. The enemy team rushed toward the sounds of combat, expecting a desperate last stand. Instead, they found 3 armored warriors executing fighting withdrawals, taking cover and retreating slowly while making it look like a serious effort. By the time the enemy realized it was a diversion, Team 7 had extracted all hostages and reached the extraction point. Simulation complete. Mission success. Time elapsed. 52 minutes. The other teams had never even breached the first defensive layer. In the debriefing room, War Master Doc reviewed the footage with all participants. His expression was unreadable. "Team 7 used tactics I have never seen," he said. "Infiltration over assault. Misdirection over force. Intelligence over strength. Lieutenant Chan, explain your strategy." Maya stood. "The enemy expected a direct fight, so we didn't give them one. We used the principles of guerrilla warfare, special forces operations, and asymmetric tactics. All human developments from centuries of fighting wars we couldn't win through conventional means. A Vexery officer spoke up. These tactics are cowardly. Hiding, sneaking, avoiding honorable combat. These tactics won, Maya said simply, and they saved the hostages with 0 casualties on our side. Honor doesn't protect your tay. The alert came 3 weeks after the war games. Maya was in the training hall teaching a class on pressure point, striking when the emergency lights began flashing red. War Master Doc's voice boomed through the station speakers. All combat-rated personnel report to the armory immediately. This is not a drill. Station Kepler 7 is under attack. Civilian population at risk. Response teams deploy in 15 minutes. Maya students looked at her, uncertainty in their eyes. They had learned much from her in the past weeks, but none of them had seen real combat. Class dismissed, Maya said. Those of you who are combat-rated, get to the armory. Those who aren't, go to your quarters and stay there. She ran toward the armory, her legs already protesting the pace. The corridor was filled with warriors rushing to gear up. She saw Krath and the Thanak brothers ahead of her. Zara fell into step beside her. Do you know what we're facing? Zara asked. Not yet. But it has to be serious if they're deploying from the academy. The armory was controlled chaos. Weapons were being distributed, armor was being fitted, and team assignments were being shouted across the space. Maya found her gear, the light armor designed for human frames. It wouldn't stop much, but it was better than nothing. War Master Doc stood on a raised platform, his voice cutting through the noise. The Scarix had attacked Station Kepler 7. 300 civilians, mostly researchers and their families. The Scarix are demanding the station's data cores and threatening to kill hostages if we don't comply. Local security has been overwhelmed. Maya felt her stomach tighten. She knew about the Scarix. Everyone did. They were raiders and pirates, known for their savage brutality. They took no prisoners unless those prisoners had value, and they showed no mercy. We deploy in 2 waves, Doc continued. Heavy assault teams will engage the main Scarix force. Rescue teams will extract civilians. Team 7, you're assigned to rescue operations. Your objective is the research wing. Section C, reports indicate 30 civilians trapped there. Maya met her team's eyes. They looked scared but determined. They had trained together, won together. Now they would fight together for real. The transport ship rattled as it crossed the space between stations. Maya checked her equipment one final time. She carried no heavy weapons. Just a sidearm, a combat knife, and her own body. That would have to be enough. Station Kepler 7 appeared in the viewport. Sections of it showed damage from weapons fire. Lights flickered. Air was venting from a breached section. 1 minute to docking, the pilot announced. Krath placed a massive hand on Maya's shoulder. Are you ready for this, small warrior? Maya thought about all the training, all the years of learning to turn weakness into strength. She thought about the civilians counting on them. She thought about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that judged you by physical power alone. I'm ready. The transport docked hard. The doors blew open. Team 7 moved into the damaged station. The corridors were dark, except for emergency lighting. Maya's enhanced vision gear helped, but the strobing red lights made everything look like a nightmare. They could hear weapons fire in the distance, where the heavy assault teams were engaging the main Scarix force. Section C is 3 levels up, Zara said, checking her tactical display. But the main routes are blocked. We'll have to go around. Then we go around, Maya said. Stay alert. The Scarix know we're here now. They moved through the damaged station like Maya had taught them. Silent, careful, using every bit of cover. The Thanak brothers took point, their armored bodies ready to absorb hits. Vix scouted ahead through the tight spaces. Maya and Zara stayed in the middle, with Krath bringing up the rear. They found the first bodies 2 levels up. Station security officers, killed by Scarix blade weapons. The wounds were savage, designed to cause maximum pain and fear. "Keep moving," Maya said quietly. "We can't help them now, but we can save the ones who are still alive." The ambush came at a junction point. 3 Scarix warriors dropped from the ceiling, their reptilian bodies moving with terrifying speed. They were smaller than Krolthan, but heavily muscled, with natural claws and teeth like razors. The lead Scarix went for Thorn, slashing at his armor. The Thanic blocked the strike but was driven backward. Another Scarix lunged at Vix, its claws extended. The Vexery dodged but barely. The third Scarix saw Maya and dismissed her immediately. It turned towards Zara instead, recognizing the threat of her weapon. That was its mistake. Maya moved into the Scarix's blind spot and struck at its knee with a low side kick. The alien's leg buckled. Before it could recover, she was inside its guard, executing strikes to nerve clusters under its arms. The Scarix's natural weapons were useless at this range. It tried to bite her, but she trapped its head with an armbar and applied pressure to the carotid arteries. The Scarix collapsed, unconscious. Her team had dealt with the other 2. Krath had used the grappling techniques. Maya taught him to pin one against the wall. Vix had disabled the other with rapid strikes to vulnerable points. "Good work," Maya said, breathing hard. "But that was just a patrol. The main force will be tougher. Let's keep moving." They reached Section C to find the door sealed and the access panel destroyed. Inside, they could hear voices. Civilians, alive. "Zara, can you bypass it?" Maya asked. "Not with the panel destroyed. We need to breach it the hard way." "That'll alert every Scarix in this section," Krath said. "Then we be ready when they come." Stone, Thorn, breach the door. Everyone else, prepare defensive positions. We're about to have company. The Thanic brothers used their combined strength to rip the sealed door off its track. Inside, 30 terrified civilians huddled in the darkness. Human researchers, a few Vexery technicians, some Krolthan families. "Coalition forces," Maya announced. "We're here to evacuate you. Stay calm and follow our instructions exactly." A young Krolthan child, no more than 5 years old in human equivalent, ran to Krath and grabbed his leg. "The monsters are coming back. They said they would eat us." Krath gently picked up the child. "The monsters will not touch you. I promise." Maya heard footsteps, many footsteps, running toward their position. "They're coming. Zara, take half the civilians and start moving them toward the extraction point. Use the route we scouted. Krath, go with her. Protect them. What about you?" Zara asked. "The rest of us will hold this position and buy you time. When you reach the extraction point, send back help. Go, now." Zara hesitated, then nodded. She gathered 15 civilians and started moving them out through a side passage. Krath followed, the frightened child still in his arms. Maya turned to the remaining team members. Vix, Thorn, and Stone, and 15 more civilians who couldn't move as quickly. Elderly researchers and injured techs. "We need to hold for at least 10 minutes, Maya said. "Maybe 15. "Can you do that?" "Against how many?" Stone asked. Thought the footsteps were getting closer. Maya counted the rhythm, estimated the number. "Maybe a dozen. Maybe more." "Those are not good odds," Vix said nervously. Maya smiled, though it felt tight on her face. "Then we make them better. Remember your training. Use the environment. Fight smart, not hard. And whatever happens, protect the civilians." The Scarix came around the corner like a wave of scales and claws. There were at least 15 of them, all armed, all moving with the coordinated aggression of a pack. Maya had positioned her team in a narrow corridor where numbers mattered less. The Scarix couldn't bring their full force to bear all at once. They would have to come through 2 or 3 at a time. The first wave hit Thorn and Stone. The Thanic brothers locked shields and became an immovable wall. Scarix claws scraped against their armor but couldn't penetrate. Maya had taught them this, how to use their natural toughness defensively while controlling space. Vix struck from the sides, using the rapid attacks that came naturally to Vexery, but with the precision Maya had drilled into every student. Target the eyes. Target the joints. Target anything that disrupts their ability to fight. Maya moved through the chaos like water through rocks. She never stayed in one place. A Scarix would lunge at her, and she would already be somewhere else, striking at vulnerable points as she flowed past. Aikido, capoeira, Wing Chun, everything she knew blended into one continuous motion. But there were too many. And her body was failing. Maya felt her legs starting to give out. The muscle pain that was always there turned into burning agony. Her hands shook. Her breathing became ragged. A Scarix champion pushed through the crowd. It was massive, nearly as large as a Krolthan, with scars covering its body and weapons in both hands. It looked at Maya, at the weak human who had disabled 5 of its warriors, and it smiled. "You die slowly, soft thing." It hissed. It attacked with speed that Maya could barely track. She dodged the first strike, redirected the second, but the third caught her across the ribs. She felt something crack. Pain exploded through her chest. Maya fell back, vision blurring. The champion advanced, confident now. It raised its blade for a killing strike. She thought about 8-year-old Maya, too sick to play with other children. She thought about 15 years of training, of refusing to let her body define her limits. She thought about the civilians behind her, depending on her to keep fighting. Maya moved. She rolled under. Maya woke to the steady beeping of medical equipment. Her body felt like it was wrapped in cotton, distant and numb. She tried to move and gasped at the sharp pain in her ribs. "Easy," a gentle voice said. A medical technician, a Vexery with kind eyes, adjusted something on the monitoring equipment. "You have 3 cracked ribs, severe muscle strain, and exhaustion. You will heal, but it will take time." "How long have I been here?" 4 days. "You were unconscious for the first 2. 4 days. Maya tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The pain broke through whatever medication they had given her. "The civilians," she managed to say. "Did they all make it out?" "Every single one," the technician said. "Thanks to you and your team. Rest now. You have visitors waiting, but they can wait longer if you need." But the door was already opening. Krath entered first, ducking to fit through the doorway. Behind him came the rest of Team 7, and behind them, War Master Doc. "You are awake," Krath said, and his relief was obvious in his voice. "Good. We were worried, small warrior. You held off 15 Scarix warriors while protecting civilians," Doc said, getting straight to the point. "Including defeating their champion in single combat. The civilians all survived. Your team performed beyond expectations." Maya tried to focus through the pain medication fog. "The mission was successful?" "Completely. The Scarix have been driven off. No civilian casualties. 6 warriors injured, including yourself. You will all receive commendations." "That's not necessary, War Master. It is absolutely necessary." Doc moved closer to her medical bed. His massive form cast a shadow across her, but his expression was different than she had ever seen it. Softer somehow. "Lieutenant Chun, I owe you an apology." Maya blinked in surprise. War Master Doc, the veteran of 40 campaigns, apologizing to her? "When you arrived at this academy, I saw only your weakness," Doc continued. "I judged you by the standards I have always known. Strength, speed, endurance. By those measures, you failed. So I dismissed you as useless. I assigned you to count supplies and file reports because I believed that was all you could contribute." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried weight that came from deep reflection. "I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. You showed me that there are other ways to be a warrior, other ways to win battles. I spent 40 years believing that strength was everything, that the biggest, fastest, toughest fighter would always win. But you defeated enemies that should have killed you. You protected civilians that others might have abandoned. You did this not despite your weakness, but by understanding it and turning it into something else. War Master, let me finish." Doc's red scales seemed to glow in the medical bay's soft light. "I rose through the ranks because I am strong, because I can overpower any enemy. But I never had to learn strategy. I never had to learn efficiency. I never had to think about how to win when the odds were against me, because the odds were never against me. My strength was always enough." He looked down at his 4 powerful arms, his massive frame. But strength fades with age. Injuries accumulate. Someday, perhaps soon, I will not be the strongest warrior in the room. And on that day, if I have learned nothing else, I will be useless. Maya saw something in his eyes that she had never expected to see from a Krolton War Master. Vulnerability. Honest self-awareness. "You have taught me that there is wisdom in weakness," Doc said. That those who must overcome limitations often become the best teachers. That humanity's greatest strength is not physical at all. It is the ability to adapt, to learn, to find new solutions when old ones fail. He straightened to his full imposing height. "The Galactic Coalition has requested that you design a new combat curriculum. They want every species to learn what you know. They want to incorporate human martial philosophy into coalition training protocols." Maya felt dizzy, and not just from the medication. That's a huge responsibility. You have already proven you can handle it. Your students performed brilliantly in the field. They used techniques you taught them. They survived situations that would have killed them using conventional tactics. The Coalition wants more of that. "What about my physical limitations?" Maya asked. "I collapsed after the fight. My body failed me. Your body is recovering. And when you teach, you will have assistants to demonstrate physical techniques. What we need from you is knowledge, not strength. We need you to teach us how to think like humans, how to win when we should lose." Zara stepped forward. "The Mars colonies want to send their best fighters to train with you. Earth's government is requesting you return home to establish a formal academy. Everyone wants to learn from the human who defeated a Scarix champion." "I didn't defeat it alone," Maya said. "We fought as a team." "Exactly," Doc said. "Another human lesson. Individual strength matters less than coordinated effort. Another thing I never properly understood. Over the next weeks, Maya recovered slowly. Her ribs healed but left her with a constant ache. Her muscle condition hadn't improved. If anything, the stress of combat had made it slightly worse. But that was okay. She had never been about physical perfection. She began designing the curriculum in her medical bed. She outlined courses on different martial systems, on tactical thinking, on using environment and psychology in combat. She wrote about human military history, about wars won by smaller forces against larger ones. She compiled everything humanity had learned about survival and adaptation. When she was finally cleared to leave medical, she walked into a transformed training hall. Cadets from every species filled the space, all waiting to learn. Some were young, fresh from their home planets. Some were veterans like Doc, wanting to learn new ways after decades of old ones. Maya stood before them, small and fragile-looking in her light training uniform. She could see the questions in their eyes. How could this weak human teach them anything? She smiled. She had seen that look before. "My name is Lieutenant Maya-chan," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "I am weak by galactic standards. By human standards, I am even weaker. I have a degenerative muscle condition that will never get better, only worse. By every physical measure you can name, I am a failure as a warrior." She let that sink in. Saw some confusion, some agreement, some curiosity about where she was going with this. "But I have defeated warriors 3 times my size. I have won battles I should have lost. I have protected those who needed protection, even when my body screamed at me to stop. I did these things because I learned something that takes most warriors a lifetime to understand, if they ever understand it at all." Maya began to move, demonstrating a basic Aikido circle. Her movements were economical, efficient, beautiful in their precision. "Strength fades," she said, flowing through the movement. "You will all grow older. You will all face injuries. You will all eventually meet an enemy stronger than you. Size is circumstantial. There is always someone bigger. Always someone with better weapons or armor or position." She completed the circle and stood still, meeting the eyes of as many students as she could. But skill, knowledge, technique, these things are eternal. They improve with age. They survive injuries. They can be taught and learned and passed on. And humanity's greatest skill has always been this. We learn how to win despite the odds. We study, we adapt, we find the weakness in every strength and the strength in every weakness. A young Thanak raised his hand. "But humans are the weakest species in the coalition. Why should we learn from you?" "Because we're weak," Maya said simply. "We had to become good at fighting, or we would have died out long ago. Every human martial art was developed by someone who needed to defeat a stronger opponent. Someone who couldn't rely on natural weapons or superior strength. Someone who had to think their way to victory." She gestured around the training hall. "You all come from warrior cultures. You have strength, speed, natural weapons, armor. These are gifts. But they can also be crutches. You rely on them so much that you never learn what else you could be. What you could do if you thought beyond your physical advantages." Krath stood up from the crowd. "I was taught that weakness is shameful, that a true warrior is defined by their strength. But the humans showed me that this is not true. Weakness can teach you things that strength never will. It can make you smarter, more creative, more dangerous in ways that pure power never could." Other members of Team 7 stood as well, one by one. Vix, the Thanak brothers, Zara. Each of them had learned this lesson in their own way. "We will teach you everything humans have learned about combat," Maya continued. 73 different martial systems from a dozen cultures across thousands of years. Tactics and strategies from every human war. Methods for fighting when outnumbered, outgunned, and out of options. Everything we know about turning disadvantage into victory." She paused, then smiled. "And I promise you, by the time we're done, you'll be more dangerous than you ever were relying on strength alone." The training began that day. Maya taught them Aikido for redirecting force, Judo for using an opponent's weight against them, Wing Chun for precise strikes at vulnerable points, Krav Maga for dirty, efficient fighting, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for ground control, Muay Thai for devastating close-range strikes, Capoeira for unpredictable movement. She taught Krolton warriors about stealth despite their size. She taught